Alarm.com has long been one of the most disruptive and successful security vendors, partnering with security dealers to provide innovative and interactive solutions. In this podcast, leadership discusses the big picture, including playing commercial catch-up to its residential sector dominance. Be sure to also check out the companion feature in SSI's September issue, titled, What Drives Alarm.com's Uncommon Innovation?
Be sure to subscribe to SSI's YouTube channel. Hit the like button, share, and leave comments. Or subscribe to SSI's Security Speaking podcast on Apple and Spotify. And leave us a review. Thank you. Scott Goldfein here with Security Sales and Integration, and I have the pleasure of talking to executives from Alarm.com today. We're going to find out the latest with the company, moving and shaking and doing all those great things. So let's start it off with some introductions, and let's just start off first with Jeff.
Yeah, great. Pleasure to be here. So I'm Jeff Bedell. I'm the Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer at Alarm, and I look after effectively our growth initiatives in the business as well as our mergers and acquisitions.
And about how long have you been in the industry?
So I joined in 2013. I came into the business.
Very good. Brian?
Hey, good to be with you today. Brian Lose, I'm the GM of Alarm.com for Business. So I look at sort of cross-functional leader of the commercial group within Alarm.com. And I've been with the company almost 8 years, which is hard to believe. And actually came in through acquisition, where prior to that ran a company called Securi that did commercial cloud video. So it was a sort of natural fit.
Excellent. Rick?
Hi, good to be with you, Scott. I'm the founder of OpenEye. I still run the business today. I've been operating in the security industry since 2001. I've spent the first decade of that time both developing and selling product to a couple of Fortune 500 OEMs. And more recently, I've spent the last 9 years leading OpenEye's transition to becoming a global leader in video software as a service.
Excellent. And Rich?
Great. Thanks, Scott. Rich Onofrio, Managing Director here at Shooter Detection Systems. SDS is a wholly owned subsidiary of Alarm.com. We were acquired about a year and a half ago. I'm original member of Shooter Detection Systems, been with the company from the beginning, which is about 8 years. Engineering background, prior to that, background in gunshot detection as well, military focused products, and one of the members of the development team that originally came up with the concept of this indoor gunshot detection, and managing director here at Shooter Detection Systems for about the last year or so.
Thank you. It's great to have such a diverse group of speakers for this session. So that's fantastic. Let's jump in talking about this year. How is it looking overall? How's it going compared to plan? We'll get into some, specifics like supply chain and things like that. But overall, just from a, revenues and growth perspective and that sort of thing, how's it looking? And I'll leave it to you. Who's best to jump in first on that?
Yeah, sure. Let me start with that. We obviously have to be careful. We're publicly traded entities, so we can't give you any material non-public information on this call. So I'm gonna give you the numbers that we've reported publicly, and then we can maybe put a little color around that. But we're having a good year. We had a very strong Q1. We have not yet reported our Q2 numbers, but as a Q1. Our growth has been consistent with plan, a little bit above plan, and in fact, we exceeded our projections on the hardware line quite a bit. We're measured by the investment community both on our subscription services, which is really our technology platform that people license via SaaS model, and then also our hardware business, and they're intertwined. The bulk of the hardware that's going into our accounts leverages our software as a service capabilities, and so we've seen strong growth on the SaaS line consistent with plan, and we were materially ahead of plan on hardware growth in Q1.
Anyone else want to jump in? Any color to add? All good?
Yeah, I mean, I can chime in briefly for OpenEye. I mean, ultimately, Jeff and Steve are the judge, but we've had a phenomenal start to 2022, really exceeding our plan and accelerating into the midpoint of the year. I think as we look back on the last couple of years, we've grown kind of headcount sort of over 50% and are up to over 225 people today, and are really expecting this rate of growth to continue into the future, which of course will better enable us to deliver new platform capabilities faster and to better serve our channel partners, both domestically and international, which will become more of a focus looking to the future.
And so, I'm sorry, was someone else adding?
I was just going to add a note. So as I'm recalling the things that we've previously disclosed. So Alarm.com for business, obviously in the commercial side, has in some cases been overshadowed by the success of the residential business where we started, which is a great problem to have, right? But I think last year we reported that we had over 400,000 commercial customers on the platform. And of course, it's grown since then. And in terms of the scale of sort of total penetration in North America, it's pretty substantial. And so I think, oftentimes we're sort of think of ourselves as the best kept secret, just because we got we're sitting behind kind of the bigger residential business, but just gives you a sense of scale.
Could you elaborate sort of on that a little bit, but in terms of, the big picture overall business structure of Alarm.com today, and about how many, employees, locations, the scale and the particular units?
When we acquire a company such as OpenEye or SDS, they both kind of fit the same model. What we saw in both cases is we saw, smart teams, good technology, solving hard problems in adjacencies that we liked. And so we bring the businesses in and we put them in the Alarm.com Holdings family. They're part of the overall corporate structure, but we want them to be able to service their partners, without being encumbered by our way of thinking necessarily, right? So Alarm.com has a way of thinking. Like Rick at OpenEye has had years of establishing relationships with integrators that are looking for specific video solutions. We're bringing OpenEye, and we brought OpenEye into the family because they understand that domain to some degree better than we do. So, we don't want to get in the way of growing OpenEye. We want to figure out how to sort of give them a push in the back and accelerate them, rather than bring them in and make them have to conform to everything that we might do and end up, losing momentum. And so we operate OpenEye as an independent business, and we operate SDS as their own kind of independent business in the same way that SDS is serving a set of partners and needs that are tangibly distinct. They have subject matter expertise that's different. We don't want to ruin any of the entrepreneurial mentality that these businesses have. But the art to this is really figuring out how to integrate them and get synergy out of the combined companies. And that's where we typically are sharing. We always are sharing back office support, figuring out how to make the teams more efficient by unloading the burden of facilities, HR, finance, accounting, et cetera. And then the harder thing is figuring out how to get synergy on the partner relationship technology side. And so in the case of OpenEye, we've got a great success story where we share technology assets across the platforms. And we have brought some of the video analytics capabilities that we actually acquired previously through a company called Object Video we moved those into the OpenEye platform. And likewise, OpenEye had some specific technology that we've brought into the Alarm.com for Business video platform and benefited there. So we really try to, it's easier said than done, but we try to get the best of all worlds out of this with the core tenet that we try never to slow down the business that we acquire, right? We're really buying businesses that we think are good in their own right, and we're trying to accelerate them and then figure out how to integrate them in a way that is truly additive and doesn't cause a disruption in the ongoing businesses.
Thank you for that. Anyone want to add anything else coming from the other side of it into the Alarm.com family?
But just since you asked, I mean, I'm happy to just provide some just high level stats. So we're over 1,500 total employees, and that would span, including the whole holdings group. I don't think we have them exactly sort of broken out for you, but it gives you a rough sense of the size of the broader group. And the vast majority of that group is within the R&D function. So we're definitely sort of heavy on product and engineering. And then just from a physical standpoint, I mean, of course, these days everybody's spread out all over the place, but we just opened our 20th office in Greenville, South Carolina. So it just gives you a sense of where we are from terms of scale.
I might just follow on to add briefly that a couple of the key benefits to OpenEye of the acquisition have really been access to, as Jeff mentioned, that video analytics tech stack. Another key benefit point for us has just been access to truly like world-class big data and cybersecurity know-how. I mean, we prided ourselves on our level of know-how, but clearly operating a cloud platform at the scale of the Alarm.com, especially for residential business, the scale that's operated at for years, you just develop tremendous know-how and expertise that has directly impacted and benefited us. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the financial resources just to be able to make the long-term investments without regard to immediate short-term cash flow that are really in the best interest of the business and our partners.
Yeah, and I fully agree with Rick. And SDS being a much smaller organization, the benefit of such things are even magnified for us. Whether it's something simple like finally having that overhead of the IT department and HR and all of those good benefits, but then the ability for us to really focus on our core competencies, our technology. Really focus on what we do best, and then allow Alarm and even like Rick mentioned, that financial overhead to really just allow us to make the right decisions at the right time and not have to run it as a small organization, more of a startup feel, but sort of keep the best of both worlds where we can operate like a large organization, but maintain that startup feel. That ability to move quickly, operate quickly, and really focus on what matters most in our products.
Who can talk to me about the Alarm.com and by extension, OpenEye and SDS culture? What is it like to be part of that organization?
Well, let me see if I can tee it up, and then I'll let the other gentleman speak, because each of the members that you're talking to have come to us by way of acquisition, believe it or not. So even Brian, we picked up in an early acquisition. We, from the corporate perspective, when we look at adding companies, first I should say if I had to quickly characterize the Alarm culture, we are an R&D kind of technology driven organization. We look at problems and we try to solve them by bringing technology to bear. And that's our background. We all came from the enterprise software world at Alarm. And so we tend to be engineering heavy. As Brian mentioned, over half of our FTEs are engineers. We grow our engineering team every year, and we continue to invest a large amount of our revenues in product and IP. We file patents, we innovate solutions, and we invest in a culture that supports that process. And so, we really are investing in growing an organization that is going to produce great technology. With that said, when we go out and we acquire companies, what we try to do is we try to find folks that we think are going to fit into our way of thinking. We buy companies that have good technology first and foremost, and then we just as equally important as the technology, we buy companies that have good teams behind them, and they're usually part and parcel, right? If you're buying a good product, somewhere in that organization is a good product team. I mean, you don't randomly build a good product without a good R&D team. So we try to find the ones that are going to fit in terms of the mentality of investing in technology and R&D. And then as importantly, we also try to have a set of values which are very much end customer focused, partner driven. We pride ourselves on customer support, all of the things that, we try to take kind of bring a sense of humility to the way we're going about and approaching the market, where we don't always know, we're always not the smartest guys when we start looking at a problem. We try to figure out, who understands the problem the best. And typically we try to get close to the end customers to make sure we're getting the right feedback and make sure we're solving the problem the right way. But each of the folks that are on the call here, when we went out and we were acquiring them, we sort of ran them through our same sort of, called interview process. It was a part of the acquisition diligence. And we concluded that they all had the right idea. They were approaching the problems the way we like to see people approach problems, and they invested in teams. And so I think they all kind of complement what we originally had. Now, with that said, I will say that as part of our management philosophy, we allow our independent companies to have some level of autonomy to create their own distinct culture in their markets. We try to bring the best of both worlds again, but I think all the companies have a slightly different flavor, and so we try to breed that and encourage that as much as anything.
Just add from the alarm.com specific side, right? The thing that strikes me most, having kind of worked within other organizations in the space, if you were to walk into our office, I think that the thing that would strike you most is how young the folks are. And so one of the sort of core, I'd say, a lot of long-term business strategy, but also just from a recruiting standpoint, is really to bring in the sharpest sort of engineering focused really grads that we can right out of college, who almost always have sort of no preconceived notion, about how an access control or some other system is supposed to work, right? It's not like we went and picked up some industry veteran, who's built it, some other company and done it for 20 years, who's like inevitably just going to build the same thing. And so I think what's a bit unique about it is that it's sort of fairly young and really run more like, I think, a software company than a traditional security manufacturer. And to some extent, by proxy of that, it's fun, right? So that everybody's sort of fairly casually dressed and everybody's super sharp, but there's a lot of like social aspect to the culture. And so, if you walk around the office and it's kind of really, you can see that people are kind of hanging out and having a good time. And I guess the last thing I'll say that maybe dovetails a little bit with what Jeff said is that, I find that it's really a self-starter culture. And so, I would say we're somewhat like management light in the sense that we're not a micromanaging culture. We sort of specifically look for folks who want to like find a problem that needs to be solved and then go and try to figure out how to solve it. So I think the group in general, at least from my perspective, sort of really rewards, sometimes even very junior employees. Like we have a particular week called Innovation Week where, even if you're 6 months on the job, you can propose a solution to some problem that maybe other people weren't working on or that wasn't handed to you. And you can get to show it to everybody and say, here, look what I built. And if the company likes it, then we end up actually turning it into a product, which we've done many times. So I think a lot of times, the culture here is really based on on kind of putting your hand up and saying, hey, I'm going to go tackle this problem and just like, figuring it out.
That's great. Maybe I could just add from the shooter detection side as well. I think we found that we've had a great culture fit with the alarm.com portion of the business. Obviously, what we're doing at Shooter Detection Systems, every day we're dealing with a very serious topic, right? This is a topic that's probably the first thing on the news at night that you read, or the article, top article in the newspaper that you're reading. Very top of mind and very serious topic, but I think we find we try not to take ourselves too seriously here, though we do have a very real focus on product excellence, which is key for the type of product that we're offering and the issue at hand. Engineering and technology are at the core of what we do. So I think that's a common theme that you've heard from Jeff and Brian already, is that engineering technology. We design our own products. We manufacture our own products through our contract manufacturer. And like alarm.com, our culture really places a high priority on quality engineering, innovation, offering those quality services, and of course on top of all that is dependability, right? For the product that we have and what we're offering, dependability is a real key piece of that. And so I think that's really baked into our culture in what we do here. And like Brian mentioned, we do enjoy all the fun things that Alarm has to offer. We like visiting their offices there and being part of that young, vibrant, and sort of innovative crowd that they've got going on there.
Is there a ping pong table there or any kind of games? That's what I want to know.
I sure have seen that. I think I believe there's root beer on tap. I haven't actually tasted it myself, but I think that's true.
There is ping pong, and it's actually hidden behind a trap door in a bookcase, and so you have to really look closely to find it. But
all right, well, I got game whenever I get over there. One of the things I've always been impressed with alarm.com about is, besides the innovation, but the interface to not only the end user but also to the dealer. And I was just curious, has there been any updates to the portals for the dealers and integrators to make their lives easier that you might talk about right now, or is it just kind of as it has been?
I mean, the answer is yes. I don't know if we want to, Brian, you want to take a shot, or I mean, I think we're constantly looking. Maybe the high level is that when we design our technology, because we are so focused on our partner channel, we almost always design a solution with two end users in mind: the partner and the partner's end customer. And so it's almost impossible for us to roll out a technology that doesn't have capabilities that are stitched into our partner portal to allow the partner to manage the end customer's solution and system. And that's just the way we operate. And so we're continually improving the partner portal and the capabilities there, but we're also building other programs that also support our partner channel in parallel to just the technology interface as well. So Brian, I don't know if you want to chime in on anything that we've been doing on the commercial side for alarm.com for business in this, but
sure. So where we're seeing a lot of success, and I think sort of the broader trend of the move towards SaaS-based solutions and away from on-prem, is really that our partners, right, are a firm with constraints, which is mostly like labor. There's only so many hours in the day and only so many guys out there, and typically their financial goals are to maximize RMR. And so, if you think about, if you're an owner of a security company, in a sense, your goal is simple, right? How can I maximize the amount of RMR with the least amount of hours sort of required? Thus, I can do more jobs with the same number of employees. And so, we take that kind of quite seriously and build sort of efficiency into the model, like throughout the organization, right? So the thought is, if I only have 12 installers, but I can reduce the amount of time it takes to set up a video and an access system by, say, an hour per job, right, then I can do X more jobs like with the same number of techs. And so, you build in these technologies that make the workflow of the person, quicker. And then the same thing becomes true, of course, after the fact with service and health monitoring, right? Like every truck roll that you can avoid, those same people can be put to use, installing new systems for other customers. So most of it's about sort of driving efficiency and quality at scale for systems that we think of as sort of repeatable. And so, we get the traditional system integrators often are, selling tons of different types of systems, and like every job is a little different. And of course, when you're customizing everything is like the enemy of efficiency. And so, our model is to sort of help them, if they sort of standardize on our offering, get hyper efficient about their delivery. And so I'll just give you one kind of very specific example is, if you want, you can integrate your CRM right into the back end of our platform, so that you have a lead that comes into your system, let's say it's Salesforce or whatever the CRM is that the dealer's using, and that lead turns out to buy a system. Well, traditionally, internally the back office has to go and like open up alarm.com or some other system and then manually create that account and figure out what services that customers have purchased and set them all up. And through that integration, you can automate it so that you just click a button and say, this lead is now an account. And, it sort of takes all the data entry out, takes all the potential error out. And so, you could do that type of thing, but across the entire organization, whether it's an installer, a salesperson, et cetera. So anyway, at a high level, it's about driving efficiency through the organization so that the partners can kind of handle more accounts with the same number of employees.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Last question I have is, in terms of innovation and being disruptive, how much does alarm.com keep its eye on big tech and on what's going on in the outside world versus being insular and kind of just developing it yourselves? And how do you balance that?
Yeah, I guess that's for me. We spent a lot of time trying to understand our partner requirements, and we really believe that you need to talk to the end customers to understand the problem, right? We need to really figure out what pain. If you're a business operator, you've got a series of challenges. We don't want to build technology that's just like technology for technology's sake. We want to solve real problems that are going to provide real benefits. And so we have to talk to the end customer. We have to be very close to the the real market needs, and those obviously are coming in through our partner network. So we spend a lot of time communicating with our partners and trying to make sure we understand what the problems really are that we're going to throw technology resources at. We obviously are in a world where there's a lot of moving parts, and the best part about technology is that it's fast paced, it changes, it's dynamic, it's never static. And so with that, we are constantly we're involved in a lot of the standards committees, but we're also involved in testing out a lot of the new technologies and being aware of them. So each of our teams, we have teams that are focused on video, teams that are focused on access control. Those product teams are constantly understanding the landscape and what are the new innovations that are happening, what we're going to need to adapt and try to get in front of them. I mean, that's one of the reasons that we are innovative is a lot of the times, not all the times, but a lot of times we'll be the first to market with a technology solution. And the only way you do that is by being aware of both the need of the dealer plus what are the new technology resources that we can bring to bear, changes in protocols, changes in chips, changes in software capabilities, compute power. How do we couple all those things to be really first to market with an innovation? We don't like to be second to market with a technology solution. That makes us feel like we got caught behind on something. So we really do pride ourselves on trying to be first, and that is just a function of, again, reading what everything's happening. And big tech is out there. They're doing what they're doing. I would argue that big tech is typically not as innovative as smaller tech companies. Big tech companies buy a lot of their small tech companies to become innovative. And, everybody sort of looks at Google, but, Google bought YouTube. Google had its own video service and it failed. It bought YouTube. It bought Android. A lot of the innovations that you see in Google are actually small companies that they purchased. And so just as much as watching big tech, we're actually surveying the market to try to figure out who are the real smaller innovators in the space. And sometimes we buy them. I mean, that's when we were looking at the gunshot space, we found a company that was, we felt was the best technology players, and we just brought them on board. So, if we can do that, that's even easier. But it's a mix. We spend some time looking at big tech. They're pretty easy to understand what they're doing because they make a lot of noise. But just as much, I would argue, we spend a lot of time looking at what you might call small tech, because that's probably where the good ideas are coming if they're not coming from us internally.